was something I witnessed many years ago that I still wonder about today and have found no explanation for it. When I was little, my parents would take me to a restaurant near my house and eat many dishes that I liked every weekend night. Then the whole family would walk home together. That day, we also went out to eat as usual. On the way back from the restaurant, I suddenly needed to urinate. At this moment, I caught a glimpse of my parents looking at each other. It seemed they didn't want me to have a pee here. At that time, I thought that my parents worried about me when I was alone because it was relatively dark and the village roads were solitary. But because I couldn't take it anymore, they agreed. After that, my father warned me not to go too far from them and hurry back as soon as I finished. Hearing that, I was also a little annoyed because I often ran in the morning on this road. It was not strange. Why were my parents so worried? But that thought also quickly disappeared, and I went to find a place to deal with my need. After that, I turned into a small alley to pee, and my parents stood outside on the main road waiting for me. At that time, I was young, so I didn't know anything to be afraid of. I just wanted to deal with my need quickly and return home, so I picked a wall and started peeing. I felt so comfortable. I quickly pulled up my pants and adjusted my clothes to prepare to return to my parents. However, there was a noise from the end of the dark alley when I was about to turn around. It made me stop. It sounded like footsteps, but it sounded so loud and messy, it didn't seem like the footsteps of only one person. I thought to myself that who would walk in this dark alley at this hour? After that, the footsteps got closer and closer to me. It was the footsteps of many people. They walked very quickly and unevenly. The footsteps were very heavy, creating a loud noise that reverberated throughout the alley. I kept staring at where the footsteps came from to see who they were. A moment later, the shadow of 3 tall men slowly passed before my eyes, but it was too dark to see their figures. But I suddenly felt that something was wrong because their faces were strange. Although I couldn't see it clearly, I was sure it wasn't the face of an ordinary person, which surprised and intrigued me. So I no longer cared that my parents were waiting outside, but hurriedly followed these strange people to see where they were going. At that time, I didn't know if it was because I was young, so I was running slowly, or because they were going fast, but for a moment I couldn't see them anymore. I didn't know why, but I still tried to run to the end of the alley and hide behind the wall. I finally saw those 3 strangers. They were doing something very shady and stealthy. I was curious, so I silently watched. But what made me more curious was that the faces of the 3 of them were wearing red masks, which looked very strange. They looked like demons, with large white eyes and 2 pointed fangs sticking out from the outside. They stood in front of an old-looking house, then moved closer as if wanting to go inside. But what happened next terrified me. As soon as 3 strangers approached the door, they suddenly disappeared. At that time, I was so scared and couldn't believe my eyes. I almost wanted to scream out of panic and amazement. But then, for some reason, I tried to calm myself and silently continued to watch in front of that house because I thought for sure they would come back out. And indeed, it was. Just a moment later, from the void, they suddenly appeared again, holding something in their hands. I strained my eyes to see clearly what was in their hands and why it was taken from this house. Then that thing made me even more terrified. In their hands were 3 human heads. I still remembered the scene vividly. Apparently of a man, a woman, and a child. Blood was still dripping from those heads to the ground a lot. After witnessing that scene, I could only cover my mouth with my hand for fear. If I made a sound, they would probably kill me. I was so scared that I just wanted to cry out loud. My tears were also waiting to flow. Looking at those evil faces made me panic even more, wondering who they were. After that, they passed me by. They still didn't seem to notice me. Those people held 3 heads in their hands, slowly left and disappeared into the alley. I was still in shock, so my body couldn't move anymore. I just stood there and watched those people until they gradually disappeared. At that time, I thought I was hallucinating. As a 10-year-old child, I had no understanding of such spiritual or demonic matters. My parents saw that I had been gone for too long, so they worriedly went to find me. When I heard my parents call, it was like I came back to my senses. I quickly told my parents the story from earlier because I thought someone must have been murdered in that house. But of course, my parents didn't believe me. They thought I was making up stories or had hallucinations because it was too dark. So I got angry and insisted that I had seen it with my own eyes. I also mentioned that I saw strange people wearing red demon masks and they went into the house and killed the people inside. Seeing that, my parents still did not believe me. I hurried to the front door where the 3 strange people were standing earlier. My own eyes saw the blood dripping on the ground. I was sure the blood was still there, so I wanted to show it to my parents. But when both of my parents arrived, they started to look at me with even more suspicion, which confused me. Because right now, there wasn't a single trace of murder on the ground. The ground was completely devoid of any blood. My father still wanted to believe me, so he tried to go to the door to check. If what I said was true, the door would have an intruder sign. But when my father came to check the door, it was still intact, with no signs of tampering. So I got scolded by my mother because they thought I had gone out and lied about the devil. After that, although I was upset, I had no way to prove my words, so I had to regretfully follow my parents home, listening to them nagging along the way. In the days that followed, I seemed to forget about the strange incident, until one day the village suddenly became noisy, as if something serious was happening. People flocked to see a lot of people. I was also curious to see if it turned out that the house I saw that night was having a big deal going on. The people in the village were also very bewildered. I heard that all 3 people in the family had just died last night due to eating poisonous mushrooms, but only were discovered this morning. To this day, I didn't know if that family's death had anything to do with what I saw the night before. Later, when I found out about the mask, as far as I knew, it had the same shape as a ghoul. According to Japanese beliefs, ghouls could come and capture the souls of the living. But what the truth was, I couldn't be quite sure.